net before, where we're recording now.
Sorry, I bumped the button there. I bumped it twice, so we may have a little blip in our recording now.
Yeah. So key is it's one of those things that you're not going to be able to make. People want to make one pane that shows you everything. You're not going to have that. You're still going to need to understand what you're doing and who you're talking with on the other side. But a big part of it is when there's unexplainable, data performance problems. A lot of times you have to be able to say, is it or is it not the networking gear that I can look at, right? And so then how much of that can you look at? Because the further it away is from something you can see, say it's a firewall at NASA, I got no idea unless their firewall does things that are obvious that something's going on there. So you want to look at everything you can, as much as you can, because error rates go up, and that's when you see you have an issue.
I'm just seeing that also the link that Tim also posted on that as well, or it posted alongside that. That is incredible. Yep. Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing where it feels super opaque to me from an outsider. So it's fascinating to hear about how you're actually trying to diagnose. So when you're really looking for clues in a lot of those respects where you have limited view.
Yes, that's true. And the key is there's no reason we should really be limited in any of the view for stuff that's on our shared network that we all use, which is all of our networking, everything from your desktop network connection all the way through to the connection to ISP, to UW stuff. So we should all be able to get through and see. And essentially you can save a lot of time if you can get to finding when there's an error or problem sooner.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can show some of our, so one of the things I would say is the links to the statsnetwith.edu's Grafana stuff. I would say those are useful when you don't know exactly what ports you have, which I still have that problem. And you can look at stuff that shows like that top 10 highest error ports, and it might be yours, but it's hard to tell if it's yours. But the way that namespace is set up, some of those graphs have a potential to search a massive number of metrics at once, just because of probably how the tool is that built it. So like it doesn't have kind of a normal namespace. There's a ton of stuff in there. So some of those can be super slow. So like the next level, besides just knowing it's there and you can do stuff, to try to build your own, which I haven't gotten as far as I need to. I haven't really gotten outside of the stuff connected to the individual ports. I need to now figure out what ports do I usually care about that are connected to the firewall, or, and then further out to the ISP. Because if you do that, then you can define stuff in a much narrower band. You're not looking at all the data. I think Tim mentioned it. Some of those things have the potential to look at hundreds of thousands of metrics via one search, right? I think so.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah, and that's just a metric design thing, but it's something to know about. And so like I can share my screen here real quick and I'll show you a couple of examples. Does anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, any questions? Don't let me dominate the mic here for anybody. If anyone has more questions, please add them in. I love what I'm seeing with Grafana too. I'm modestly used it in a few contexts before. I'm imagining, do you guys have like a big series of Grafana instances where you're monitoring that sort of thing, or is it just sort of have you guys worked it down to like one dashboard?
There's a lot of dashboards. Is it being shared properly now here?
It is. Yeah, I can see it now.
All right. So we have, and I'll just show you what we have. I got involved I learned about Grafana about 4 or 5 years ago because I needed to look at Lustre, which is our large file system issues. And if people are destroying your Lustre file system performance because of the metadata operations, and like, how do you deal with that? And it seemed to be the people that knew the most about actual deep stuff into metrics were using this tool. So no, it's just on a single machine that we run it on. It doesn't have massive requirements on the front end. Now you have all these different backends you plug it into. So I'll show you some of the backends, like, you have data sources, right? So here's we have an in-house Graphite one. We have a Prometheus, which is really for most of our stuff now as a backend. The SIPs product has their own. And then here's StatsNet with .edu. I could just put that in there. This Volcat last one is a MySQL database someone had. So they're all just different backends. And so it's mostly a front end. And now people also use it for alerting and stuff. Now we don't do that. So it's not a massive amount of hardware to run the thing. And so like this page you look here is not a ton of stuff either. But what I said about like breaking out like what you're looking at, look, here's just some of the hosts we have. So this one here, for example, fan out. These are clearly not like systems that are used by humans directly, right? Like look at how the bandwidth works for in and out. That's not a normal pattern. It's a sawtooth. Clearly, we're regularly getting data in and out of this stuff because this is a backup system that helps do satellite data work, not in our building. So, but really, errors is often what we're looking at over here. So this is just an example of one of the panels we made. And the tricky part, which I tried to lay out in some of those screens, was the variables, which is, and it's not tricky, but it makes it reasonable to do, which is here we have the interface. We'll edit this thing. So escape pod 1 is actually a port, which is this entire crazy thing. Let's see. Well, up to the comment. There we go. So we have to know that port is something meaningful to us. And that's really all there was. That's why I mean it's a flash talk. There's not like anything deep to talk about here, except for the data's there, and this seems to be a reasonable way to get at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it seems the amazing amount of visuals with that, and I love that. That's a more advanced use of Grafana than I've done before. So that's really fascinating to me. I see Steve Barnett's in the chat.
Oh, that thing's we just reused the name, Steve. And Birch is going away anyway. It's one of our web servers. So
nice. Birch lives. Nice.
Okay. Yeah, I think way back in the day, it was like I remember it being an AIX box. At one point, it became a router when one of our other routers failed. This was probably 25 years ago now, but the name lives on. So
that's right. It's going away though because it's been replaced by a couple other trees, chestnut and walnut. But oh well.
So we have the tree naming
again. Yeah, naming things is difficult, but those are just we alias everything to something that makes sense. So
it's always fascinating to see, what category, if you will, of names that people use for naming things. My goodness. So yeah, this is, I mean, so with a lot of this, you've had, you've had some stats. I've been focusing so heavily on the stats. Is there other areas of this that you feel like that I've probably not asked about that you think are common, I guess, points of, either common questions or just common points of confusion with areas that you're basically with throughout your talk here?
I mean, I think the core thing I'm trying to get at here is that we're talking about using a backend that already exists of data for yourself for to build your own monitoring solution and panels. That doesn't mean you shouldn't use the ones that are also created for you by network services with statsnet with .edu or the Grafana page they have there. But I think if you have a particular servers or services or ports that you care about more, it makes sense to make your own. That's the biggest one. If you don't need this stuff, then it's not worth doing it, of course. Or if it's if it's very infrequently, you should just look and see if you can use what's already there.
Yeah.
Well, if you get in situations where you have to have a lot of meetings with directors and administrative people and all that because of events, then that's when you do this sort of thing.
Yeah, you get the better higher level view anyway. I know that as much as I'm sorry, if someone have a question, if it's someone to chime in. I don't know, I thought I heard some for a moment. Feel free, if you have more questions, if anyone still has a question at all, please drop it in chat or feel free to just chime in. I was gonna say, I mean, to me, this is I can certainly see the use. I like, you looking at dashboards for, our web server infrastructure and understanding where we're having, performance problems there. So this is, to me, very much akin to that. But I like that. I like your use of Grafana with that. I hadn't really considered that. If you have those data sources, it's pretty flexible to do that.
Sure, you can look at all kinds of stuff. I mean, I'll share my screen again if I can. This is off of that general topic, but So the luster one is a big deal for us because like you can see if I can find someone doing something stupid. It's usually not hard to do. Let's see if I can find a, man, that one's not that bad.
By the way, Steve also asks, which you may have in here as you're looking at these. He asks, have you built any metric or built any dashboards, excuse me, which plot these external metrics along with your internal metrics?
Yes, you certainly do that. I haven't done it with those particulars, but I've done it with others that I'll show you. Actually, this one might be. So like if we look at this thing here, here this top line is like metadata operations per second. So like 4,000 metadata operations a second is going on. When we have abuse, you'll see like 20,000 operations a second and almost no data being read or written. This is like 16 gigabytes. These are gigabytes, so 2 or 3 gigabytes a second is, you know, that's nothing for a cluster file system. But then when you see you have a ton of metadata operations, you have a problem. But here you'll see I have some other things on the same page, like the CPU load on all these servers. This did not come out. So the back end for this luster metrics is different than the back end for the CPU. This is Prometheus. This is also Prometheus, but it's a different back end. Similarly for the network thing, you can say, I think I might have one that has it already. Let's see here. This one maybe is good. So you can have, you know, load and stuff like here's our network traffic, right? And then you have HTTP response codes. You could also have the network port on the same page that you're using. I know I do that somewhere, but I can't remember exactly where, but it's not a big deal. You know, you can use all your data sources and intertwine them into one thing. And that's sort of stuff is useful.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So you can look at, so if you have a server and you're really worried about its network performance, you can just look at its network port and see how it's doing. You can also look at the network statistics on the host. You can look at the CPU and load. So if like the host has some kind of massive problem where it's out of memory, that's why stuff's not going through the network. If you know multiple hops on your network, you can look at a few of those and then get an idea, like if one of them has a bunch of errors, that's your problem. And like, these aren't just static. You can, as you're working, you'll sit there and you can pick different data sources and stuff too. Because graphs and all are useful, but like the hard part is the analysis part and the, you know, pattern recognition analysis humans are good at. Your system administrators and your developers and stuff are good at actually looking into patterns and comparing them. So.
Fantastic. Is there, when you're looking at issues like that, is there like a remediation time you're always trying to aim for? Like, I mean, obviously the sooner the better. Like this is sort of like anytime we're experiencing problems, but what on average do you try to shoot for?
Oh, you know, we're what's the term I hear all the time? Best effort, meaning we work regular hours, you know, on pagers, and we don't have second shift or third shift or anything. So
right. Yeah, no, I should phrase it. Yeah, during business hours. Yeah.
We don't have service level agreements, right? And so what I'm trying to do here, which I have not accomplished yet necessarily for all this, is to make it so we can find out like that there's a network problem before it has trickled from all the way out to our partners and the application people and come all the way back up through the people that provide the data with satellite data services or some other project, then come back to us and say, why is it slow? And then we have to go back out and try and contact DoIT and say, why is this slow to Amazon? Why is this slow to NOAA? The goal is to shorten that time. So we don't have strict, you know, SLAs or whatever, but realistically, if stuff is if we have, you know, high error rates and it lasts for hours, it's a real problem. If it lasts for days, it's a problem where I have PIs starting to ask, like, who do I need to talk to? You know, and it's like, well, you can try to talk to them, but it's not going to matter, is what I want to say. Like, we need to get fixed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I could just see how entirely complicated all these are. So to deal with each of these, I mean, it's unique in each of its cases.
Yeah. If it was simple, you wouldn't have people involved. You just have a computer fix it for you. What kind of actual remediations happen for issues of this kind? Well, internally, you know, one of the common things is like we've seen, like, oh, we have a dirty fiber port. And with DoIT, you know, like their remediations, it varies, depends on what it is. One of ones that is still, I think, a problem is the firewall systems have a bug where if you get a lot of traffic for a long time, or for some reason they start having high error rates, and they just, I think they just switch back to the backup firewall and back again, and then you're okay. So they turn it off and then they turn it back on again. But I think that's an ongoing one, which I think there's a lot of effort to get fixed, and to get Palo Alto to acknowledge that that's a problem. Other times it's been, you can have bad port interfaces on switches. And AWS isn't being terrible, it's our network being terrible. The thing is, the thing is pinning down that it's a problem on your end or something you can solve. So you want to, It used to be more than half the time you could just be like, oh, it's probably your firewall out there, because we could watch the traffic and be like, oh, look, we saw TCP resets, right? And so it was like, oh, it's your firewall. Well, now it's sometimes our firewall too, but it's always different, and it's not going to happen often enough that you're going to necessarily get great at it.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. This is the kind of thing where, again, I love to hear about the stuff. I'm just out of my depth on it. I'd love to see if there's any other questions folks have, please ask them now. Otherwise, you can always add them to the chat later on. There might be a chance for those to be answered. Phil's got one more. He says, would it be correct to say that you haven't really been able to set the system up to fix itself?
Yeah, this system is a monitoring system, so it's not going to fix anything. This helps us detect problems, and then the fix involves, whatever's there.
Is it because the fix varies just so much every time, right? Like there's not like a common thing that, we constantly run this thing where we have to reset something.
We're trying to detect things, that something happened, right? And we'll also go and say, like, when you have like a performance problem that lasts for days, the AI is to just reboot everything. By the way, that's the secret of cloud stuff. When they see a problem, they just kill things and restart them. That's why there's so much focus on systemd and how fast you restart stuff. It's idiotic.
Well, right. That's why our cloud instances are just ephemeral, right? They just destroy them and recreate them.
Just run it twice and check it. But anyway, this is, having a graph of or anything visual where you can see, not just detect where it is, but after the fact, when people say, like, why? If you don't know and you're just like, I think something went wrong, that's a lot worse than be like, well, we have this horrible ongoing outage, right? And if I'm talking to a project whose funding depends on the performance while, working all the time, they feel much better if you can say, oh, we found a problem, here's the problem. It's not fixed yet. That doesn't matter nearly as much, because they know someone's attending to it. The real, like on the people side, the real problem is feeling like no one hears that you've got something wrong. Mm-hmm. Because we've all experienced that, right? And that's what causes, because then your imagination is say, I don't know what's going on, and so that makes you assume the worst, because that's how we're wired to try to make things work as engineers.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, degraded by like less than 1% essentially makes it useless for a high latency link. But yes, even why is the link degraded is another question. But at least saying that link is a big deal. So it's important. Yeah, for us, we're very sensitive to these latency problems. So I think the example I showed had the error rates go way up. But if you have a high bandwidth, high latency links, which is what research a lot of times is all about. Physics even more so than where we work in some other places. It destroys your performance.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. It's retrying packets over and over again at that point, I'd imagine.
Yep, and that's exactly why. And there's a lot of our partners that we work with, they are usually downloading, but also uploading, satellite data all the time. So they detect it on their end, and they're like, oh, it's falling behind, right? So it's not a matter of like, oh, things are a little slow and my page won't load. No, they're constantly downloading a lot of data or uploading a lot of data, and the performance falling back means the application starts to fail. So they actually graph it and look at things on their side too. So it's all the better to have more insight.
Makes perfect sense. Well, to me at this point, we are at time.